Hello, everybody. Welcome to Daily Coaching. Daily Coaching are currently hosting a number of discussions around topics within the football industry with players centering around their coaching experiences. And I'm delighted to announce today that we have Jason Pearce of Charlton Athletic with us to help us discuss these coaching experiences all the way from first starting out within football, so from a grassroots level, all the way up until the current professional level as well. So, Jason, massive thank you for you taking part in this today and joining us. If you can you just kind of start briefly around your sort of background when you first started out within football, so as a kid, and then kind of bringing us up to where you are today?
Yeah, obviously, thanks for having me, firstly. But yeah, no, I started quite young. Well, quite late. Sorry, I didn't get to play until I was probably, I don't know, sort of seven, eight, probably. So I was quite late, really. So I was, and then I just basically played for my local team. I was from a place called Fleet in Hampshire, and just played for my local team there, and just enjoyed my football really. And obviously, as a young person. And obviously, looking back, that's what it's about. It's what you play football for. You enjoy it, you love it. So no, obviously I've done that. And then when I was I think it was about 13, 14, I got scouted by Portsmouth. So I went there. Had to train twice a week there, and then in the evening. So it was quite tough for my mum and dad, both working full time. So obviously got a lot to thank for them for. But yeah, train there twice a week, and then towards about, I think I was there for a year, and then I actually got let go. I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't enjoying my football, and obviously travelling all that way, you got to enjoy it, and that's all my mum and dad wanted. They all said, as long as you're enjoying it, you carry on. But yeah, then I got released. I went back to play for a team called Mitchett in the local area. It was like a top team who winning loads. So I got my confidence back and enjoyed playing. Then got scouted again a year later by Portsmouth, I then got an apprenticeship there. Signed pro deal, and then basically I signed a pro when Harry Redknapp was there, and they had a lot of the stars there. So it was going to be very difficult for me, unless you're a real star as a young player. It was really difficult to break in. It was really Gary O'Neill was the only one that had broken into the first team for a long time. So I remember Harry pulling me into an office and saying, "Listen, you need to go on loan, learn your trade. I think it'd be a good thing for you." So I went on loan a couple of times, Bognor Regis and Woking. And then after that spell, Bournemouth in League One come in for me on loan, which then turned into a permanent. Stayed there for 4 years, had a few ups and downs. It was an interesting time. And eventually I went back to Portsmouth. Then that was another tough time because they went into administration, which I went in twice, which is where, for the young people out there, where the club goes into financial difficulty and struggles to pay the players and stuff like that. So it was a tough time, and they had to sell me. So from Portsmouth, I went to Leeds, signed a 4-year deal at Leeds, which is obviously my biggest move. Really enjoyed my time there, massive club. Then fell out of favour a little bit there, so signed at Wigan. I had a great time there, and then ended up at Charlton, where I am today.
Nice. So a mixture of a journey, really. And I think it's important as well for players to have that in a way. I mean, listen, there'll be some players who obviously have, potentially one club throughout the whole of their career. But I mean, I've spoken to a few players and I've mentioned about experiencing the differences within your footballing journey is so important, because I suppose, even from early on, having, say, for example, like a loan experience, especially at a young age, you're probably thinking, wow, is this something I want to do? What's going to happen to me after that loan? Am I going back to my club? Am I going to go on to the club I'm going on loan to? So, yeah, interesting journey. And like you said, obviously some big clubs there, obviously, which you have played for and obviously currently playing for as well. Before we kind of talk about the clubs that you play for and some of the experiences within them, taking it all the way back to kind of when you first started out then, what was the first ever coaching experience you had? Because obviously, like you said, you started kind of late. But was that your first experience of coaching, or was that kind of the first team-based environment you was in?
I'd say for me, the coaching experience would go back to when I played for Mitchett Athletic. A guy called Tony Hogan, who I still speak to now. They won a lot of, obviously in the local area, won a lot of trophies and had a real good winning mentality there. And I think he really seemed to get the best out of his players. And obviously at grassroots level, it is about that and just trying to get the best out of your players. I think obviously at every level it is, but for me, I loved playing for him. He just gave a lot of confidence. In terms of the training, it was relatively basic, but a little bit tactical. But no, it was from my experience with him. It was just all about confidence. And when you're young players, I think that's what it's about. And if you get obviously at grassroots level, your confidence and you're winning, like it's great. It's great to be part of.
Yeah, of course. And it's interesting as well for you to remember that the first coach you came into contact with, because I think so often there's a big stigma within football that the coaches that people mainly remember are the ones that potentially gave them their big break, or one of the most current ones. So it's quite refreshing from a coach perspective that, you know, you remember the ones who kind of were there with you. And I think it's interesting as well, you kind of hit on a point there where you said that, like, you know, the training was kind of basic in the terms of probably wasn't anything groundbreaking from what you may have experienced in other environments, but especially like you said at a young age, I think it's about giving you the confidence, giving you the sort of freedom just to play football without any sort of major pressures, and to enjoy it really. Because I think especially between that sort of 5 to 11 age group, it's all about loving the game and, you know, falling in love with it to help you obviously later on within your career. So yeah, it's interesting to hear that. So obviously you went to your grassroots team. A few ups and downs in terms of the Portsmouth experience. What was that first loan like? Because I mean, I'm taking it that obviously when you went to Portsmouth initially, and you know, there was like, this is how we play. This is how the way of Portsmouth is. You was coached in a certain way. What was the sort of difference from then when you went out on loan? Was there a kind of major difference in terms of the way you was coached, the way you was dealt with, because you was potentially a loan player?
No, to be honest, like, for me, obviously going out on loan, and I say to all the young players now, try and get yourself out on loan, because the experience you gain from that is vital for then how you step up and have a career. But for me, when I was quite lucky with my first loan, to be honest, because I mean, it doesn't matter what level you go to, but it's men's football for me, and that was Conference South at the time, and there was a manager called Jack Pearce who was the manager at Bognor Regis, and I was lucky because I actually trained at Portsmouth all week, and he allowed me just to train at Portsmouth and then go and play the games with them. Okay. But also, surprisingly, probably to some people, Bognor Regis at the time played out from the back all the time. So it was like, back, obviously this is talking 12, 13 years ago. Obviously football has changed. And, but yeah, they played out from the back. So it was great for me as being a defender to keep learning, because obviously that's the way Portsmouth wanted to play, and what we were teaching their young players to try and play out from the back and be confident on the ball. And so it was, for the experience for me in men's football, playing against big men, it was obviously tough for me, but they give me the chance to obviously try and express myself. So it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, nice. And I think that works well. I mean, I know some clubs nowadays do try and do that, obviously as most appropriate and best as they can. But yeah, if you send a player out on loan to a club which potentially plays a similar style of play, I suppose it's a match made in heaven almost, because like you said, especially as a young player as well, who's trying to understand and learn how Portsmouth play and how the manager wants you to play and the type of player that he wants to create, that if you're going to then go into a club where, well, number one, being able to still train with Portsmouth is fantastic obviously as well, but then going out to a club that is forward thinking like that. And I think it very much does boil down to the manager. I mean, I suppose we're in a cutthroat world where, you know, managers potentially lose their jobs after months, weeks or years, however long it may be. So I suppose the style of play is always adapting really. What was the kind of the differences then between, say, for example, when you was initially starting out within football, so when you was, so for example, even on your scholarship, to when you went to the professional stage and the men's, like I said, first team, was there a kind of difference within the styles that you was approached to? So, I mean, obviously, like you said, at a young age, you're going to kind of be more influenced by the just having fun, you know, giving you confidence. I suppose when you're going into a scholarship level, is it kind of just bringing the best out of you, or is it kind of, again, still trying to mold you almost into what the first team player might look like?
Yeah, I think, like you said, obviously when you're younger, grassroots, it's all about the confidence and enjoying it. But obviously, once you start getting to apprenticeship level, it then becomes, they got to try and mould you and make you into a player then. Yeah. So it becomes obviously there's obviously more pressure as a player. You know, there's pressure. You're trying to earn that next contract, and that's what it's about in your whole career. So the people that work hard and go over and beyond what they should do, the people that for me will go a longer way than others. Some people, I see a lot of people with a lot of talent, but they don't want to work hard, and they fall by the wayside. So I think for me, the difference in terms of coaching at the apprenticeship level, I think they have to set out what they want. There's a structure to it, and it's not all about winning, which I don't agree with, if I'm honest. I think it should be not just about winning, because there's development. You need to develop. They're still young, but you need to have that winning mentality for me. It's so important, because like you said, we were talking about the loans. If you've got a young player who's not used to winning, doesn't know what it's about, and they go into a first team where, especially when you go on loan to the lower levels, a win bonus can pay someone's mortgage. It means everything to them, you know. So for me, I'm quite strong in my opinion on that. So no, I think, but in terms of coaching, like you said, like I say, I think it's structured, a lot of tactical work, and they work hard on you. But obviously, then it's for them. They then have to make a decision. So again, for me, it's difficult for players, because there's so many players. And I think I read a stat the other day. I was probably thinking it's 80% of players that go into an apprenticeship don't make it. Don't have a career in football, which is amazing, really. So, but yeah, no. So I think it is. You still got to enjoy it. You still got to enjoy football, because if you don't enjoy it, you're never going to get the best. And I've always a believer of that. You have to enjoy playing. As soon as you lose that enjoyment, you're never going to play with confidence. And I know that. I've experienced that, because I've played under managers that don't give me confidence, you know, and they don't get the best out of you. So it's difficult. But no, just from that level, I'd say, yeah, it's more structured. They still, it's not so important to win. So it's more about development for me.
Yeah, nice. And I think, again, you're right what you say in terms of, you know, I think you'll get sort of you obviously want to have fun and enjoyment throughout the whole of your career. I mean, that's obviously from when you're a kid, you want to be a footballer because you enjoy it. That's what you like to do. And I think, sometimes that the big thing comes in when, you know, you might get a manager, and we was kind of briefly talking about this before about, you know, managers and coaches understanding the players that they have in front of them. And I think the big thing is, I mean, you know, in your time, you would have been bought by managers because they like you as an individual and you may fit their style of play. And that's brilliant. But then, you know, as we was kind of saying, football is so cutthroat that, you know, for the moment, the manager might be there, and then all of a sudden they might get the sack, or they might obviously potentially take on another opportunity as well. Have you found it easy or hard to kind of adapt to that? So, I mean, like I said, say, for example, a manager brings you in because they like the way Jason Pearce plays, and that fits their style of play or their philosophy. But then you get a manager who comes in, and it's a total different way of, you know, they might not play out from the back. They might just like having, you know, high up defenders up the pitch, or, you know, they might like to play with 4 at the back or 5 at the back. Has it been easy or hard to adapt to that?
I think you have to be adaptable in this day and age. Obviously, I think the philosophy of the game since when I started has changed a lot. Obviously, everyone now it's all about trying to play out from the back, doing a high press, and all this sort of stuff. So it has changed a lot. So I think they're moulding different players. So for me, I'm a centre half, and I'm probably sort of a no-nonsense sort of centre half. I'd be known as, really. But obviously, I've played in a lot of teams that have played out from the back, and I have had to adapt to that. And I'll go on to that about my time at Wigan with Gary Caldwell. But yeah, so I think you have to adapt, and you have to be ready to adapt. So you can't. I don't think you can put. I don't know the word, but like. If I'm like I said, I'm a centre half, and I'll just head it and kick it, and then it goes to a team, and someone comes in, you want to play out from the back. Me as a player, you have to be adaptable to that and want to try and improve and learn. You can't just be one-dimensional. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
No, it is, like you say, it is difficult, because if you're used to playing one way, and then a manager comes in and plays a totally different way, it's difficult. But as long as that manager or coach gives you that time and works on things and how to improve that, then that's great. But you also don't always get that time, especially at first team level, when managers need that instant. They'll be winning straight away. So you don't always get that time. And if a manager doesn't like you, in his opinion, he's come in and he doesn't like you, then I'm sorry, but yeah, you have to move on. And that's like you say, that's the cutthroat world of football, really.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well because, again, I think at a younger age group, there is that flexibility there of being able to develop players. And my question would be sometimes like even the adapting to different philosophies and style of plays, and even instructions, simple things such as instructions, that adapting to that is part of a development stage, really, because you may have never played like that before. I mean, for example, now obviously within England there's a lot more different philosophies which are implemented, but some people could argue maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago that most English clubs played in the same way. And I think that being able to adapt and being able to mold your game is an important part of development. But like you said, managers and players as well don't really have the time, and I think it is a important kind of part to, like you said, be able to play in different ways, really. And that leads on quite nicely because, again, one of the big things for me is understanding the players. And, again, in clubs, obviously, you have different structures, different finances. There may be some managers out there who can't afford to go and buy whoever they want, or the players that they want, which fits their mold or their philosophy, aren't out there. So, as, say, for example, Jason Pearce, what's the best way of getting your ability out of you and being the best sort of Jason Pearce, whether that be on a training day or a match day?
For me, I've always been the sort of person that likes to be coached. I'm the sort of person that wants to improve. I always want to keep on improving, and even at my age now, I know I'm not the best I can. Well, I say that's a lie, because I am the best I can be in terms of I try everything. I work hard. I do extras. I'm asking questions of how I can improve. But with a manager, if they don't give you the time to improve and give you the tactical knowledge, and then they're not going to get the best out of me. Obviously, the way you speak to people, obviously, when you're younger, if someone tells you what to do, you sort of do it, and you listen. As you get older and you get more experience, you sometimes question that and ask why. Okay, why are you telling me to do that? Blah blah blah. So, but no, I think in terms of like coaching, I think it's just important to. I think everyone. I don't need an arm around my shoulder. You know what I mean? I know if I've played. I've always been honest with my own performance. So I know if I've played well, if I haven't played well. I also watch my games back and look for ways that I can try and improve. But also, it's just for me, it's giving me that time to try and improve tactically and on the pitch, and then just speak to me with respect. And I always speak to other people with respect.
Yeah. And again, I think that these are things. These are the simple things which I think often within coaches' heads, it's always about the playing style, about the technical aspects of the game. But like you just said there, the psychological things are massive, and the social things as well. Like I said, how do you speak to somebody? How do you communicate with somebody? The big thing as well you mentioned there about kind of why. I think, again, a lot of coaches will concentrate on how, when and where, but unless a player really understands why they're doing it, that can go one or two ways for a manager, really. I mean, say, for example, if you came into a club and you said, all right, I want to play this style of play, or I'm telling you to do this in your position, but why? Like you said, you're an experienced player, and you played under loads of great managers, and it isn't disrespect calling them out in terms of saying, why do you want me to do that, and understanding, because I think it's important. And I always kind of say anyway that I think that when coaches are coaching players, they're basically molding the next generation of coaches, because they're giving the players the knowledge, understanding, the reason behind the way certain things are done. And I think all it boils down to really is the independent and individuals' decision-making skills. So understanding, like I said, when to do it, where to do it, and most importantly, why. You get a lot of, say, for example, players who may be, managers who may be ex-players, and they may use a drill which has been used on them. That's absolutely fine to do, but it's understanding, am I just using it because that's something which I've seen before, or am I using it because it's appropriate to the players that I've got with me and what I want to get out of them or best to develop them, really. So, that's interesting. And kind of looking on that then, so as a sort of whole within your career, whether it be professional or whether it be when you first started out, what would you kind of say is the main thing that sticks out within your sort of coaching experiences? Has it been something which maybe was, you know, the first encounter that you had with a coach, or was it kind of, again, like we spoke earlier on about maybe somebody who gave you potentially a break within it, or was it even just something just socially which you done within training, which is a little bit different?
For me, like the thing that I've sort of learned, and especially aspiring to be a coach, the big thing for me was the man management.
Okay.
So you can get, obviously, there's so many different managers I've played under that have got a very different way of playing, a way of implementing how they want to play, and obviously even on the training pitch, some managers I've played under that they don't even come out to watch training at times. They'll wait and then come out on a Friday and just do set pieces and a bit of tactical work. Some are on the pitch all the time watching everything. Some will come out and watch from afar, so they watch people. How, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's loads of things like that. So there's different aspects of that which I've probably looked at and gone, right, I'll take a little bit from him, take a little bit. So I've tried to take good and bad bits. But the man management for me is such a key one, because especially nowadays, you know, like for me, the children coming through get away with a lot more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So when I was an apprentice, we had to clean boots from the first team players, which for me is a good thing, because you sort of get a rapport with the first team players. You sort of understand. I don't think it's a bad thing, and just little things like that where you get an understanding, you gain in respect. It's just important. But the man management from a coach's side, it's been really important to see and interesting, because some managers I've played under, you've obviously got a squad. You got a squad. So you've got your 11 that's starting. You've got your favourite 11, potentially some managers. So you've got your favourite 11 who some managers treat them brilliantly, and then the rest of the team they don't treat as well.
Yeah.
Now for me as like I said, as an aspiring coach, I want to treat everyone the same, because you're going to need that certain players. You're going to need them players at some point. And some managers have played under where haven't spoken properly or well to some players and sort of left them out, and then they've had a few injuries in the first team, and then they've needed them players. And my sort of thinking would be, okay, well, you haven't been great to me all season, and now you want me to play for you.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a player, we're talking obviously about coaching, but as a player, you've obviously got to be professional, and you've got to do the best for yourself and for the club, and you do it for yourself. But just for me, from the coaching point, the man management side is huge for me. And if you can get the players all playing together and getting the best out of them players individually, you're onto something for me.
Yeah, no, totally. And that kind of sprung a sort of point in my head as well. I mean, it's obviously like you're a defender, you're a centre back, and I know that it's creeping within the game forever more now. And I think it will probably even go a little bit deeper into each specific position. But do you do much, or like again that man management? Do you do much defending specific training? So whether it be kind of just defenders on their own, or whether it be sort of you taking the time outside of you're playing on a training day and do sort of like one-to-one coaching for specific defending, or
like for me as a player, I will do stuff with a coach at Charlton to work on my game with specific one-on-one stuff.
Yeah.
But me as a coach, obviously, I'm starting out in the game. I've been doing the under 15s and 16s at Charlton, and I do a little bit with the 18s at times. And I have done some specific work. So I've done unit work with some of the 18s, where obviously I'll just work with a back four as a defender and work through certain situations and moving the ball quickly and heading it, getting up, just all different things, but working with them individually. And I enjoy doing that. I really do enjoy that. And that's not just defending unit work. I've done stuff with the attacking players as well, which I enjoy. And I think it's really beneficial. I think for me, like if you can get, obviously you work as a group and you're a manager, but I think as a coach, I'd like to have that time out where you could work with units, work with individuals, and you see things too. Because sometimes when you do a debrief after a game on a Saturday, you come back and the manager will say, "Oh, you should have done this, you should have done that," but then nothing gets done in training.
Yeah,
I'd like to
I can imagine that.
I would like to say something in debrief to someone, right? You need to do this better, but then actually go and work on it with that player, so that then that doesn't happen again, or they improve, or they understand where you're sort of coming from. But yeah, like, so I'd say that's what I'd say, really.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, and I agree. I think it's a massive thing. Again, don't get me wrong. I suppose time, pressures of just being within a job. Man just have to kind of focus on everybody, or like you said, the potentially more favourable 11 at the time, and they probably don't get as much individual stuff to do with the players. But I think that's where the coaching team comes into play, really, because somebody like yourself. I mean, I can say, for example, when you do eventually stop playing, you decided, right, well, I'm going to go into, say, for example, even Charlton, and you was the defending specific coach for Charlton. Then all of a sudden, that becomes your role and your responsibility, which potentially eases a bit of a workload on the manager. So I do think that, yeah, that's massive, and I think as well, even in terms of being able to ask questions, which again is an important intervention within coaching. And even just typically things like observation and feedback. I mean, I'm taking it even when you're doing your coaching at the moment and you're seeing the younger players, there's probably things that you're looking at within the game and thinking, what would I do there? Why are they doing that? How comes they're making that decision? And yeah, I think that observing is a massive part of it, really. So yeah, no, makes sense. And then kind of looking at everything as a whole, and now this is a very cliche question, but I'm going to try and put a little bit of a spin on it. So firstly, I'd say, what would your advice be to any sort of young and up and coming players? And if you want to, you can make it defender specific. But then secondly as well, what would your key message be out there to coaches from a player's perspective? Because again, like I said, throughout the whole theme, I think it's really important that coaches and managers understand players. Would you say there's anything out there for coaches to be aware of when they're coaching their players?
Well, from a player's perspective, from young players, I think it's just important for me. I've said to the young players, just enjoy playing, enjoy. Yeah. It's just simple. I know it's simple, but enjoy. Work at your game. So if you're a defender, obviously, and you got and for example, if I'm using myself as an example, like I feel like I'm a good header of the ball. My left foot's decent, but I could work on my pace. I could work on my right foot. So you identify things that you're not so good at, or there's things you can improve on and work at them. Don't let it go, especially when you're young, because you can really improve on that at that element of your game, and then that might make the difference, or might put you in front of someone come to a decision. So for me, yeah, enjoy it, work as hard as you can. Obviously, you have to make sacrifices. When you're a young player, I made sacrifices, and I am where I am today because of that, I think, because you see, you with your mates, your group of mates or girls or whatever it is, coming away from football, and there's a party, there's this and that. You have to make sacrifice and not do that, and you have to put your football first. If it means that much to you, you have to do it. So sacrifice, enjoy, work as hard as you can, and work on your weaknesses as such, as well as your strengths. You can keep on improving, and also for me, ask questions. Not as many, like you said about the question thing. For me, as a young, I'm trying to be a coach after my career, but when I've been in with the 15s and 16s, it's quite nice when they come up to me at the end of training and ask me questions. Oh, what do you think of this? What do you think you should do with that? So it's important, because then they learn from it, and then obviously from a coach's point of view, it's then how you show them what they should do or how they should do it. Do you demo? Do you show them on a video? Do you show them on a tactics board? It's just different ways of obviously showing it, and that's what I'm sort of learning. I'm trying to improve on. I'm nowhere near the finished article as a coach, but it's just like learning and taking things from what I've learned from managers and what I've enjoyed as a player. From the coach's point of view, for me, like one of the biggest things, which is obviously hard at times, but it's honesty with your players. Like, it's really difficult. Obviously, from a player's point of view, being in a dressing room, the manager pulls you out, speaks to you, tells you why you're not playing, for example. They're going to go back and tell their mates. It's going to get around the team. So if you're telling that player a lie, and then you've told the other player in his position something different, it's going to create a bad bond within the team, with the team against you as a coach. So for me, a big, massive thing for me is honesty with your players. It's huge, and as a coach, for me, I want to be honest with my players. If they're not playing because the other person's better than them, then they need to be told that. Yeah. And then, okay, you're not good enough, but I want you to work on this. I want you to work on that. Give them something, because if someone said to me, "You're not playing because he's better than you," okay, well, what can I do then to get back in the team? What can I do? Okay, right, as a manager, okay, right, well, if you work on your right foot, work on your heading, work on your pace, give them something to work on, and then you feel like you're working on something, but you're also still part of the team. So for me, the biggest things for me as a coach, is because I think you can have tactical to do all the tactical work. I think obviously the more tactical work you do is better. The players have a more understanding, but obviously then there's a balance of doing tactical work, which can come sometimes for the players come across boring. Yeah. And then having a bit of fun and having five-a-sides to keep balls and all stuff like that. So it's an interesting one trying to get it right. But from a coach's point of view, from my point of view as a player, honesty is the big one for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Two great messages there. I think number one, from the player perspective of, like you said, working on strengths and weaknesses. I think so often, there's a big thing, especially when we do coaching courses as well. They typically kind of say that whether it be a coach or just be sort of the English culture, we look at things negatively all the time, and we always think, oh, what have we done wrong? What have we done wrong? But actually, sometimes, players, like you said, if you've got strength, work on that strength, continue to work on it. Don't just stop there and think that that's that. And then even from, like you said, the other point of view as well, so from the player's perspective of advice for the coaches to be aware of, the two elements you mentioned there were brilliant. Like you said about the in terms of being honest, I think, you're right. I think players need to know where they stand, and part of understanding the player is being able to approach them and tell them what, like I said, maybe why they're not in the team or what they need to work on. Also having objectives as well. Like you said, it's not just, right, you're not in the team because I don't want to play you today. It's, right, you're not in the team because of X, Y, Z. This is what I want you to go and do. Like you said, work on your right foot, potentially pick up your pace a little bit, or do you know what I mean? So I think it's important that within that as well, that coaches do obviously set players objectives too. So they have something to work on, something to work towards. So then I suppose as a player, you can kind of go back onto the coach, and like you said about the questions. Well, I've worked on my pace, I've worked on my right foot. What do I need to do now? Is it something else? So yeah, massive. Listen, Jason, fantastic insight into your journey in terms of when you first started out, in terms of where you are now. And again, you briefly mentioned it as well, but I think one of the big things about, like you said, in terms of your characteristics, you're been a captain everywhere you've been at. And I think that shows within sort of, like you said, coaching leadership. It's interesting, like I said, to hear that you're doing your coaching badges anyway, because it brings it out within that. And I think so you said you're well within your way of doing it, but yeah, it's definitely an enjoyable sort of journey to go down. But great insight into it from a player's perspective, so the coaching experiences you face, and also advice out there for coaches, because as I kind of briefly mentioned to you, one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this was, I think so often coaches kind of just have the coach's head on, and it's very easy to forget about what the players are thinking and feeling, and that's so important in my eyes especially. So all I can say is a massive thank you for giving that insight and sharing that advice.
Yeah, no problem at all. Enjoyed it, and thanks for having me.
No problem at all. I'll look to catch up with you soon then, Jason. All right, but like I said, again, massive thank you for taking part, and hopefully players and coaches will take some of that advice away with them.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
No worries.